welcome everybody to today's video, and we're doing something a little bit different. We're flying an Ekranoplan, which is an old Soviet ground effect plane that used to fly about 10 feet above the surface of water. It was designed for fast transport below enemy radar, although I don't know why they didn't just buy a really fast boat instead, but there we go. Anyway, so the takeoff here from London City is with a jet assisted takeoff system, and then once you're in the air you can switch over to the propellers. So the plan today is to land this on the Thames, do a water takeoff, and then maybe go for a ground effect flight sort of 10 or 20 feet above the surface of the river. In the air it flies just like any other sort of turboprop or propeller aircraft. You can see that it doesn't have a huge amount of power on propeller. It would struggle to climb without the jet engines, but all we're going to do is just fly it low until we can find some water to put it down on, and when it comes to landing it on water it behaves just like any other seaplane. The unique part, which you'll see once we've landed on the water and we take off for our ground effect flight, is its ability to perform straight and level stable flight just a few feet above the water's surface, which you can't really do in any other aircraft. If you get that close to the surface and you're in ground effect, the plane either wants to land or it wants to take off again. But this plane will just sit there quite happily, and you can essentially treat it like a boat. You can sail it around the country at 130 knots, again just a few feet above the water. So setting up for our jet assisted takeoff here, we're starting those jet engines again, and if we give it full throttle on the water, it actually accelerates really quickly, and when we get to about 80-90 knots we'll be able to take off. I'm not sure we'll be able to take off before Tower Bridge, so we're just going to try and fly underneath it and hope for the best. I think there's a few bridges coming up as well, so we'll have to try our best to either go over or under those bridges. I feel like I should have just chosen a better river to do this flight, maybe some open ocean, something like that, but we'll see. How hard can it be? So we've taken off, got those jet engines turned off now, and we're just flying above the bridges till we can find some open water to start our ground effect flight. So we're back again, and we're now at Clacton Airfield, near the coast of southeast England. As it's right next to the coast, I feel like this is a much better place to try and fly our Ekranoplan. London, it didn't go so well. So as soon as we leave land here, turn those jet engines off, we'll perform a water landing, then we'll take off from the water and try and get some stable ground effect flight in this Ekranoplan. It reminds me of the time I tried to learn to fly helicopters, in that it's a really tricky thing to get your head around because it just behaves so differently to any other aircraft that you're used to. So there's our good water landing. We're down. So just as we did on the Thames, we're going to do a jet assisted takeoff from the water, and then we're going to try and get into stable ground effect flight sort of 10 or 20 feet above the surface of the English Channel. So the jet engines are on, we're throttling up. It's quite hard to tell how fast you're going on open water, but if you just depend on the instruments, you'll be absolutely fine. You can see we've got flaps at 15 for takeoff, and that's why it's shouting at us. But as soon as we get in the air, we'll bring those flaps to clean, and we can also turn the jet engines off and go into propeller. So on the autopilot here, you want wings level, auto throttle about 130 knots, and vertical speed to 0. So once you've reached that sort of stable ground effect altitude, if you turn the autopilot on, you get stable ground effect flight as seen here. So it's absolutely awesome once you get it right, and I can only imagine how crazy it would have been to see these things in real life. So we actually managed to fly this around the entire south coast of England. What I found out is that if you leave the jet engines on, turn the jet assisted takeoff bit, the afterburner bit off, but leave the jet engines themselves on, and it actually flies much happier than it does on propellers alone. So you can see here, what we're going to do is demonstrate this flying as a normal plane. So if you want to take off from ground effect flight, all you have to do is just increase your vertical speed, and the plane will climb quite happily. Once you're in the air, you can use heading mode to turn the plane around, just as you can in any other aircraft. When you're on the water and you want to turn, you should just use the rudder. If you try and use heading mode, it will tilt the wings too much. There is one more thing I want to mention, and that is Ekranoplans are incredibly fuel hungry beasts, even in normal flight. So before you take off, just make sure you have enough fuel for your trip. I forgot to do that.